And we're back. What's up, guys? On the blog, doing a quick NFL segment, a lot of stuff that's gone down. My man, you lost your franchise quarterback. Tom Brady decided to say goodbye to Belichick and the Pats, and he went packing to my home state in the South, Florida and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You know what?
Thoughts. I need thoughts.
I think, I don't want to give the eulogy of Tom Brady's Patriots career at the end of the
Should
day.
we play the Undertaker's theme as you do this?
I mean, I'm not going to say that I wasn't surprised, but I mean, with all the reports that had been coming out over the last month or since the season was actually over, I wasn't too stunned by it. It seemed like there had been a situation where, Bill's always had that mindset where he always gets rid of guys a year or two too early rather than too late. You saw it all, I remember Lawyer Malloy.
Teddy Bruschi.
I mean, a lot of the other guys. I think Bruschi actually retired a Patriot.
Sorry, Mike Vrabel to
the Chiefs. Things along that nature, like guys like that. Ty Law. It's always something.
Who's the one they traded to Oakland, the D lineman, who was a legend for them the first few Super Bowls?
That was he's an NFL analyst right now. It's Willie McGinnis. Was it Willie McGinnis?
Not Willie, but Willie's really good too.
He works on First Take. Bigger
Drawing
dude.
a blank.
Yeah,
Anyways, he's another guy that traded a first round pick for right after a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and he had 2 good years with Oakland, and then he fell off a cliff.
And then again, a year or two to run in. So with Tom, I think Tom was actually in that situation a couple of years ago with all the reports about Bill wanting to groom Jimmy G as the successor. I think that threw him off a little bit, and I think you look at the Patriots team even with Brady this year, they needed some major revamps. The offense was looking solid at one point because you had Lord knows he was a lunatic, but Antonio Brown was still a really good wide receiver. Josh Gordon had his issues, and Julian Edelman was solid for the serviceable, but then he ended up being a guy that dropped the most passes last season.
Well, against the Titans, he's the one that dropped the ball at the end.
Exactly, which probably could have turned the whole game. And at the end of it, he was also battling injuries, so it was an aging crew. And I think Brady at 42 years old, I'm obviously gonna wish him well because again I'm a huge fan. I'll always be a huge fan. I still think he's the greatest player to ever play in the NFL. Six rings, could have been more, could have been less. But some games that he probably didn't deserve to win. Other games he probably didn't deserve to win and didn't happen. All in all, it's one of those things where hardly anyone ever finishes their career in the same place. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, all these greats were always when coming to the twilight. Peyton Manning, all these guys that were on the twilight of their career, they decided to go play elsewhere. And for Tom, I think he wants to prove that it's not only the Patriots that made him successful. Now, as a 42-year-old,
this is what we talked about.
It's a bit of a problem because, I saw last year, even though the weapons weren't great, you saw that Tom took a dip a little bit in form because with age it's gonna happen. It's he's never been the most mobile guy. The offensive line wasn't great last year, and maybe he turns it around Tampa because he's got some significant weapons on wide receiver. I think it's O.J. Howard at tight end. So again, he's got some guys. Will he be able to do what he did when he was 10 years ago? I don't think so. It's tough division, and they got Drew Brees in there, and Atlanta got better.
Carolina, who knows, right?
Carolina again with their situations
Teddy
as well.
Bridgewater.
With Teddy, so it's not going to be a cakewalk in the division, but I think Tom wants to challenge and he wants to prove that it wasn't only Bill that got him those championships.
But it's kind of tough now at 42 or whatever he is, right, to say, because we talked about this too off camera, and we said, hey, if Brady goes in there and he has a great season, it can be he's Tom Brady and he has one of the best trios of wide receiver and the receiver corps in the league, right?
Sure.
If he falls off a cliff, everybody says we saw it coming.
Well, I mean, at
40, because he's 42 years old.
42 years old, I mean, most guys wouldn't even be close. Most guys, again, I think Peyton, I forget what Peyton was, 40, 41.
It was a few years before 40.
Yeah, at that age,
the
you're
body's
not
breaking down.
You're not expecting great things the way you are. And as much as, again, I would have loved to see him retire as a Patriot. Yeah, I mean, he has something to prove. The organization, I think it's been reported that Brady did not want to come back. So that's got to be some internal things there because you don't just make that decision of a 20-year career. That maybe you don't feel appreciated and that the coach isn't or they're not trying to have a winner. Now, I have a lot of anti-Patriots, friends that are always about, well, I can see what they're going to do. And what they believe the Patriots will do is tank the year and hope for Trevor Lawrence going into the draft. I can't see Bill doing that. Now, would it cost people to go crazy if they actually did do that and Trevor Lawrence turns into the star that a lot of people think he's going to be? Maybe, but
same thing with the Spurs and Duncan and Robinson, right?
Sure, right, and that was a 1 year like hiatus, and then that was the situation because the Spurs
And the
had
Colts as well when they lost, when they got luck for whatever that was. He was a franchise guy too.
Exactly. So I mean, am I gonna be like that disappointed with the Patriots if they have a one bad year and they end up getting a franchise quarterback?
And they've been decimated in free agency too, right?
Well,
the defense taking some hits.
Kyle Van Noy was gone. He was a guy, but again, that's the genius of Belichick was that he's always able to find guys like Van Noy. They got from the Lions for a 6th or 7th round pick, and he just turned that into
defensive player.
He turned that into a huge deal for himself, and good on the man. Can't keep everybody. You saw that with the Rams. You seen that.
Detroit signed a few of their guys too. I saw.
I mean, without Jamie Collins Jamie Collins was a heck of a he kind of tailed off near the second half, but he went to Cleveland, signed a big they traded him for a draft pick. He was terrible in Cleveland. Came back again 1 year
in the system.
Had a great year. Again, signed with Detroit and Patricia. So again, he's able to get these guys that aren't valued around the league, and he turns them into something, and that's just the way that it's always been. Consider the fact that there's no franchise, and this is not me just being a Patriots booster. There's no franchise in a 20-year span that's had the continued success that they have in the free agency period. Nobody, because you lose guys. They've consistently lost top-tier players every year in free agency. Yet they still managed to make it into
but the thing, I don't know about, I understand they've been probably the best 20-year run of any franchise.
Besides Tom Brady.
They lost, though, because they've never had stars,
well,
right?
besides Tom Brady, they've pretty much lost majority of guys that would
But how many of those guys are Hall of Famers, though? Like, how many even close?
Well, I mean, let's say Welker is a borderline guy.
He was there for 3 years.
He was there for first,
right?
So, but they've lost every whether it be running back, defensive players. There's some defensive players
that all jobbers.
Ty Law wasn't a jobber, right?
No, but that was year 1, 2, and 3 of the.
Yeah, but again, think about let's see. Well, I mean, Rodney Harrison was a guy that they picked up from the Chargers.
Yeah, we're going.
They haven't guys like Vrabel were all pro guys.
Yeah.
And McGinnis was an all pro guy.
That's the first 5-6 years.
Well, what about Chandler Jones? Chandler Jones is still amazing.
They traded him for a first-round pick to the Cardinals, and he's still been killing it.
Yeah.
He's been good.
So there's that, and then there's always been guys especially on that defensive line. They lost Trey Flowers, which is another guy that was great. On the defense side, they always take hits, but
on
they
the
always
offensive side, they've never. So they've had Gronkowski, obviously, and Hernandez.
And
obviously top-tier guys.
Huge loss, though. That was a huge loss.
Both of those guys, right? But neither of them left in free agency.
Well, Hernandez left because he was killing people. But at the end of the day,
in case you missed
that. But that for me, for example, was one of their biggest hits because I personally believe, even though they were somewhat still successful,
they would have had more Super Bowls if those guys were still on the team.
100%. Because those were Hernandez was a guy, maybe the biggest waste of talent that I've seen is that he was a tight end that was as good as a wideout, and those two would have been a lot of people thought he was better than Gronkowski.
Yeah,
and that was a huge loss.
Question for you: who's the best wide receiver they've had over the 20 years?
Randy Moss.
Exactly.
100%.
Name the second best.
Second best.
And they had Moss for 2 or 3 years, and at that point, people thought he was pretty much done.
He was done, a reclamation project. I would say the second one, you'd probably have to say that it's probably been Edelman, but Welker. Troy Brown was pretty good. Deion Branch. They have a workman-like material. I mean, it's not always been superstar.
Well, those are guys you can find. Those, what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah, you can
find
if you're good. But again, if everyone could do that, they would, right?
But okay,
they're not able to do it, right?
So devil's advocate we're playing. Let's go back to. We're gonna go to Peyton Manning then.
Okay.
Right. I can't even remember their names. Austin Collie. Okay. Was Austin Collie good?
Now,
he was.
Are you going with the Colts situation?
The narrative I'm going with now is the quarterback makes the wide receiver.
Well, no, but he had Marvin Harrison for his almost.
Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne Hall of Famers.
Well, there you go.
Put them apart. I'm talking about post those guys. When they had, because he was.
You still want to say T.Y. Hilton was pretty good.
T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton was pretty. And again, he had Reggie Wayne almost the entire time. He's never been a team that Peyton's had no wide receivers. They've always had some guys that were always pretty good.
Okay, but then Brady's always had Gronkowski if he didn't have a top tier guy, right?
Minus just and Edelman, they were able to get and so forth. And this year, you could see that they struggled because N'Keal Harry wasn't what he was supposed to be. He was injured for the majority of it. Edelman again declining. And again, he lost in the first game when Antonio Brown was there in Miami. They played great. After that, the offense.
That's what I wanted to talk about. I made a note. Week 4 and 5, guys. Igor came up to me as we have these sheets here from the Pro Line picks.
Okay.
I had to hear from my man for the first first month and a half of the season about how the Patriots are winning the Super Bowl. Like every other Patriots fan after they beat up on Miami. They beat up on the Jets. They beat up on the Bills. And they beat up on everybody. I'm starting to sound like Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, the schedule was.
And what happened? Then they ran into some real teams and they were still good.
Well, the situation was you got also here was the biggest thing, and not again if you watch the NFL, so a lot of star power. Their biggest hits also, if you take a look at it, was that the offensive line was terrible. They had guys that were third stringers on the Buffalo Bills that were starting.
What is that?
They lost
cap management? Like what is this?
No, you lost David Andrews to blood thinners. You lost your starting center, which completely throws them all off. So they lost him. They had Isaiah Wynn, the left tackle, who's massively important to cover Brady's blind side. Missed the majority of the year with a messed up toe. They were playing second and third stringers on the offensive line, and it killed them. And not to mention the running game was absolutely atrocious because again they had no offensive line. Again, like White and a lot of those other guys were able to do some things. Michelle had a great, but again it was like the playoffs. You see all the playoffs the year before. And now without the offensive line that they had, Sonny had was like one of the worst running backs per yardage, and he was great in the playoffs. He was one of their best players. So
Jersey running backs are tough too because if you're going to say the offensive line is that bad, which I'm not sure because I didn't follow the Patriots that tight. Then it doesn't matter who you have behind the line. Can have Barry Sanders, you're not going to pass the line of scrimmage.
Well, exactly my point. So as soon as the offensive line went downhill, the running game was absolutely obsolete.
That's okay.
So it is what it is there. What are you going to do with that, right? Yeah. You can only do so much with
they're killing screen passes too, but then it gets back to building a team, right? It gets back to building a team, and not to sit on here on the Pats all day, but if you were building a team from ground up, where would you start with? What positions do you start?
So here's the thing, and let's go with so the Patriots never take a wide receiver in the first round. Last year they did. To me, they chose the wrong one.
They chose the wrong year.
I don't know. Well, again, I was a big guy with the Seattle guy. I'm blanking on his name. The wide receiver. He had a great year.
Yes.
The DK Metcalf. Yeah. I was big on DK Metcalf.
And AJ Brown, the Titans took his partner, and both of them have been incredible.
And again, I think Brown got taken before the
Patriots. They're both second-round picks.
Was that Brown?
Both second-round picks.
Again, Nikhil was injured. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He had a couple of games there at the end, but I thought DK was the pick. And you can see that they were desperate at wide receiver. Why that was
why Randy Moss.
Which is what. Well, even that was Randy Moss. When you lose guys look, I'm not a huge fan of Chris Hogan, for example. They lost Chris Hogan in free agency, but even he was a bit of a deep threat. They had no deep threat. Josh Gordon pretty much has lost a step. All the situations that he's dealt with, they had no one that was stretching the field, and that was one of their biggest concerns. Which is why they took a chance on bringing in Antonio Brown.
Big, fast guy.
And
Kill Harry I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's why they're going for Antonio Brown is because at the end of the day, speed down the field.
Yeah.
Phil Dorsett wasn't that guy. They didn't really have anyone that really moved the chains. Edelman had a pretty terrible. He was supposedly had a busted back and whatever. So they really didn't have those guys. They lose guys like Danny Amendola. Every year they were losing those guys. And those guys were useful pieces. Hogan, Amendola, all those guys. And this year they just didn't have the guys that were, the tight ends were. I think Benjamin Watson was out of retirement.
Yeah, but the point of what I was getting at when I asked the original question of how do you start a team, what positions do you draft at? I want to say, off the top of my head, I don't know the last guy they've drafted, except linebacker from going way back. They've always drafted well in the first round linebacker. They've missed on a lot of picks in the first two rounds.
I forget. I'm blanking on his name. The Michigan guy, the one that kind of looks like Clay.
Oh, yes. They took him in the second or third round.
He had a pretty good year.
Yes.
I have high hopes for him.
He won linebacker of the year in college. He won the third round.
Yeah, he was quite good.
Yeah.
Again, I'm blanking on his name, but he was quite good.
Yeah.
The situation with them is that they finally got into a situation where one, Brady's older, and two, you don't have the guys that are even somewhat difference makers. The tight ends, like Benjamin Watson out of retirement, they didn't have the pieces. I think Matt Lacoste was the tight end. That guy that they would never Brady used to throw the tight end almost every second or third play. Those guys were
option.
They had a Landon Robinson who they also lost in free agency this year. He was playing fullback and as a freaking tight end. That guy's a defensive guy. The speed that they lost for the guy who went to Chicago, the really quick guy. It was a Vikings draft pick. I'm blanking on his name.
Was he the punt return guy?
He played running back for a little bit too. They lost that guy in free agency. Again, I'm blanking on his name. He was dreadlocks, really quick.
I remember too. The first round pick. Yeah.
Great. Again, they lost that guy in Chicago. They continuously lose guys, and after a point, you're not going to be able to do that if your draft class is like
drafted terrible.
But that's the thing. This year they have a bunch of draft picks. Who knows if they'll be able to do it? They can't work guys out. Who knows how that's going to go. So yeah, I wish they get DK Metcalf would have worked out, would have been more of a pick. But maybe Harry again had a back.
Nikhil Harry maybe comes
Yeah,
back.
maybe comes
like I
back.
Said, he looked like he was a good.
But it also
guy,
depends who's going to be the quarterback and so forth. But again, 20 years, there's not one franchise. This from the Colts to anybody else, the Broncos, all
in any sport. I'll give them that.
Well, the Red Wings had that for a lot of years. I'll give the Red Wings credit.
Yeah, but they only won 2 cups, I think, right?
But they never missed the playoffs in forever.
But the Spurs also haven't.
But now they're disasters.
Yeah,
So
well, it's gonna happen when you don't have top tier picks, right? I was gonna ask you too. Would you have preferred if Brady would have retired a Patriot, just called it a year right now, called it a career, instead of going to Tampa Bay, seeing as he's probably not going to win a Super Bowl, right? Let's say they either make it in the first round or they lose. Let's say he doesn't go out with a bang.
I mean, if he comes back and he's an absolute shell of himself, like I don't want to see that.
What do you think? How do you think he's going to do this year?
I think Brady's still a top 15 quarterback.
4,000 yards. Probably.
I think Brady will again. That team again. Winston had an offense.
His numbers were incredible if you take away the interceptions.
Yeah, he had a great year. So if you can manage the ball a little bit better with that offense, he might look great. And then that'll be the whole situation where I'm hoping he's like, well, Tom was a great player, and it wasn't only Bill's system, because that's what everyone says, right? He's a system quarterback.
Same said about Kawhi.
Yeah, exactly. So he's a system guy without Belichick. But again, I'll give Bill all the credit in the world. But again, remember that Bill, when he was the Browns head coach, was terrible. So you can't tell me that it's all coaching, because I mean Bill now and Bill then, maybe it's 2 different people, but you need players. You can only do so much when you're a coach if you lack the talent. Yes, you can come up with schemes that'll make the Rams and so forth, which Bill's not now done it twice. Like those great offenses, shut teams down. But you also need the players to do it. If you don't have guys like Van Noy or guys like that are in the system that like Trey Flowers, you can only do so much with the players and talent that you have. So yes, it's a little bit of coaching, no doubt, but you need the players. You can't tell me that Matt Castle was 11-5 or 10-6 when he was in there.
Made the playoffs that year? Did they make the playoffs that year?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, I mean and they lost in the first round. But on a stacked team, that was a year that they had.
The year before, after they went perfect for the regular season. I think it was one of the two, right? That was.
I think that was a couple years after they had that near perfect season and they lost to the Giants. But again, that team was stacked.
Yeah.
On defense, on offense, they were stacked. And even now, you still for example, like Stephon Gilmore, given days sometimes he gets beat like he stole something, but he's still defensive player of the year. It wasn't like they were able to get out like I was on the Bills.
Yeah. And they let him go, of course. Yeah.
Well, again, he got paid massive. The Patriots never pay anybody; they paid him.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've had such certain situations, but yeah, they need a revamp. And I don't know who's going to be the quarterback. God knows if it's Andy Dalton. I'm like, Lord. I was hoping for Teddy Bridgewater, to be honest. I mean, I might take Winston again at this point. Yeah. I might take Winston at this point, but I just don't see him being a guy that Belichick will really. Maybe they'll just go with Stidham and they'll just call it a year.
Is that their backup of this year?
That's the backup. Maybe just go with Stidham and
call it a for Trevor Lawrence.
And then or try to trade up for Tua to Tagovailoa or
I don't
whatever.
think Tua's going to be that good. I've been arguing with some people about that.
Or whatever they have decided.
Really quickly, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Maxwell.
Mm-hmm.
Are you more of a Patriots fan or a Tom Brady fan if you had to pick one to ride off into the sunset with? I know you're a LeBron guy, so I can't call you a Cleveland fan from back in the day.
I would say that I'm still gonna be a Patriots guy
over Brady.
Well, again, if you're asking me in the sense of if I'm gonna be cheering that Tom does well, I definitely am, because I think like I said, he's the greatest of all time. But I'm not gonna turn into a Buccaneers fan based on Brady being there. That's not gonna happen.
But you did become a Lakers fan based on LeBron.
I wouldn't say I was a Lakers fan. I'm a LeBron guy.
That's what I mean, right? You
I
follow the player as opposed to his
again,
teams.
Do I if they win the championship, and then again if LeBron wins or Brady wins the championship, well, am I gonna be happy for Brady? Sure.
I feel you'd be happier if LeBron won a championship than Brady, though.
No, because at the end of the day, if Brady could prove all those dollars, I don't believe that he's the greatest of all. I think if he takes it, I don't know if they were 6-9 last year. If he takes that team to a Super Bowl, I think that's at 42 years old, that's one of the greatest sporting accomplishments of all time.
Well, the Lakers didn't make the playoffs last year, I guess.
But you also, again, that's a different situation where you also got Anthony Davis, who can be considered a top 5 player. He's not doing it by himself, and I'm the first to say that. Again, a guy at that age can't carry.
And it's probably tougher too, because if Brady was 37 even, it would be a different situation.
I played this devil's advocate with you and special correspondent, and I've been absolutely right in these situations. Is where when these guys leave specific teams, and I don't know how the Patriots are going to be next year, but we've seen what happens. Well, not Miami, not as much, but we've seen what happens in the Cleveland situations where LeBron leaves there, where everyone has this belief where it's not only LeBron,
Maybe it's the city of Cleveland. Look at the Browns.
It's not those situations where Kyrie, again, and we go back to that, was never able to carry them to anything. Kevin's hasn't been able to carry them to everything. It's those teams weren't that talented to begin with, in my personal opinion. And then when you lose that, like, all credit to the Raptors. A lot of the NBA guys thought that they would be
going to the playoffs or 8
yeah,
7.
exactly. Well, they have a lot more depth in terms of what those teams have. When I was like here, like saying, you know what, these teams aren't that great. Without LeBron, they wouldn't make the playoffs.
They really weren't.
They really weren't. They, like, you see it now, and yes, a couple guys leave here and there, but like Kevin's still been on the team.